Hi everyone, this is Germinal Van, and today I'd like to discuss a very important topic, and it's about how to improve your mathematical skills. So I receive a lot of inquiries on Instagram or on social media in general asking me about how they can improve their math based on the fact that they didn't learn math well enough in high school. So one of the reasons why people are not good at math, I believe, is because people focus on the difficulty of the math. That's number one. And number two, generally people did not have a good teacher or a professor that told them why mathematics is important in their lives and what role it plays and how they can use it. So, first and foremost, mathematics is a tool. It's a tool of analysis. It's a it's a tool that you use in order to reach a goal. Personally, the way I learn mathematics is that I don't learn it just for fun. I don't do pure math, although pure math is important. It's very important. I will never deny the significance of pure mathematics. But when I learn a mathematical subject, it's because I'm going to use it. I don't learn things just for the sake of learning them. It doesn't bring me any value personally, but that's just my personal standpoint. At school, many professors have never told us why we learn math. We just do it because it's part of the curriculum. And because it's part of the curriculum, a lot of people resent it. They're like, why am I learning all of this? How is this going to benefit me or help me? And it's because of that you see people after high school, they never do mathematics again in their lives. But as they grow older, they realize how mathematics becomes important in their lives. And I'm speaking from experience because I, for those who have watched my previous video, I explained a little bit my educational background before moving to the United States. And I majored in mathematics and biology and physics back in Ivory Coast. So I have a little bit of math background, but even my math background was not as good as it is today because it wasn't until 2 years ago that I finally decided to learn mathematics more thoroughly. So that's when I finally pick up on things. So as I said earlier, teachers and professors never really explain to people why math is important in their lives. They just learn about the Pythagorean theorem or the Thales theorem without necessarily understanding how they're going to use this. And it makes sense. I mean, if you don't tell an individual how what he's learning is going to benefit him, he's not going to give himself 100%. And there is a myth about the fact that you have to be born a genius to be good at mathematics, and that's not true. That is absolutely not true. It's like saying you have to be a genius to drive. Everyone drives, and driving is something you learn. No one was born driving. It's the same with mathematics. Mathematics is something you learn. Yes, some people may have some intellectual abilities than others. They are able to count faster, to understand things faster. But this is just details. It's not a prerequisite to do mathematics. And that's one myth that people have in their mind. They say, oh, I cannot do math because my brain doesn't function that way. That's not true. The brain functions the way we want it to function. No one was born with superpowers. Mathematicians are not superhumans. The same way philosophers are not superhumans either. It's just a matter of preference. It's just a matter of what you enjoy doing the most. People who enjoy doing philosophy will develop a philosophical mind, which means that their ability to understand philosophy will be much faster than those who are in the science and are interested in philosophy. And vice versa. People who are in the science and love science, for instance, who love mathematics, they will understand math faster than if they were doing languages or philosophy. And what people don't even realize is that grammar is harder than math, because math is a universal language. No matter the language you speak, or no matter the place you come from, when we give you an equation, you can solve it. And two people who understand math and don't speak the same language will still be able to communicate, because if you solve an equation and you make a mistake within the equation, the other person can say, hey, you screw up here, you got to fix it. Compared to grammar, you have the learning process is completely different, and it's much harder because each language has its own rules and properties. Even the Roman languages, French, Portuguese, Spanish, and Italian, they're all Roman languages, but they do not have the same rules and properties. So even if you speak French like me and you learn Spanish, yes, there is a lot of similarities and resemblance, but the rules and properties are still not the same. But when you solve a differential equation, for instance, if you solve, I don't know, a first order linear differential equation, we know that the rule for that is dy over dx plus px equal qx. That's the rule. No matter what your language is, we know that that's the rule of a differential equation, or basically a linear differential equation of first order. Or if we say, for instance, that the derivative of sine is cos is cos, okay? So the derivative of sinus is cosine, and the derivative of cosine is minus sine. So it's those things. Those are the rules. So when I'm telling people to study mathematics, I always tell them this: why do you want to study it, and how is it going to benefit you? Because in order to learn mathematics, specifically once you're out of school, you need to understand yourself why you want to learn it, and how you're going to use it, and how it's going to benefit you. In fact, learning math is simply a question of psychology. Anybody can learn math, actually. It's not impossible to learn math. Is mathematics difficult? Yes, to some extent it is. It is a rigorous field of study at the end of the day. So yes, it is difficult. And that's where the issue is with people. When they're asking you about how to learn math, most of the questions revolve around the complexity or the difficulty of the subject. I'm like, why are you focusing on how complex the subject is? And what people don't realize about this is that by focusing the questions on how difficult the subject is, they're already creating barriers in their mind. They're already creating obstacles in their mind. So, and the minute they are confronting the difficulty in the learning process, they will give up because they prep their mind for that. And that's where the issue is. When I started learning mathematics, to me, I did not care at all about the difficulty. What I cared about was how learning the math will help me develop my theories. How learning the math will help me creating more rigorous theoretical framework. How knowing the math will help me test my theories. Those were the questions I was asking myself. So once I knew that, the difficulty of the math was not an issue. I'm like, okay, sure, I'm going to face it. And when you face it, you learn it. And thank God we have YouTube today, and we have Khan Academy and all these platforms where we can actually learn mathematics for free. That's the beauty of it. So it's important for people to not focus on the difficulty. In fact, when things are difficult, it's a good sign. It means that you're leveling up. Instead, you should embrace the difficulty. The more difficult it becomes, more power to you, because it means that you're making progress. Nothing worth it comes easily. If you're doing something that is easy, it's not worth it. So the more you advance in your learning process of the math, so let's say you're doing differential calculus or integral calculus or differential equations or linear algebra, all of that, those topics are difficult. But when you're doing those things, it means that you are leveling up. It means that you're doing great. You're not going to spend the rest of your life, if you want to learn math, you're not going to spend the rest of your life doing basic equations. But I would say that it is important to do basic equations every single day when you're learning math, because it's, as I say, doing math is like driving. If you want to become a good driver, you got to drive every day. If you want to have some mathematical reflexes, you have to do math every day. In fact, the beauty of doing math is that it trains your brain in a different way. How so? When you do math, first of all, what happens is that you start thinking faster and you start thinking outside the box. Because that's how equations are. Equations is always based on at least one variable that we're trying to find its value. So, and that variable we're trying to find its value is the one that is the unknown variable. So you have to think outside the box. You have to look at the other variable or constant that have a value and see how you can use them to find the value of the unknown variable. That's how math works. So when you apply that thinking process to real life situations, you start having an edge over people in your actions and stuff like that. So that's why math is very, very interesting and very important to learn. And on top of that, as I said many times, we use mathematics every day in our lives without even knowing. We use it to make decisions. Specifically, for all of us who are professionals who work, we know that the company we're working for isn't making decisions out of the blue. They're using mathematical models to make the decisions they're making in the market. So we use math for everything. That's why it is important to know and learn the subject. So one of the tips that I could give about learning mathematics, so first of all, is to change your mindset, to change your approach to math. Instead of asking, oh, is it going to be difficult? Ask yourself how what I'm learning is going to benefit me. How what I'm learning is going to benefit my work. How can I use the math in my work? Those are the questions you should ask yourself. So it's a matter of psychology. Once you're able to change your psychology, now you can start doing the math. And what means doing the math? I remember during COVID, it was the perfect time for me to actually learn mathematics. So during COVID, I was doing math every single day, Monday through Friday for 3 hours. I would study from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. And I started with pre-calculus because that's where I left off after in high school. I stopped at pre-calculus. So I picked up on pre-calculus. I did complex numbers, composite functions, all of that, even a little bit of matrices. And then I moved to calculus 1. And after calculus 1, so I did like differential calculus, so derivative, the chain rule, implicit differentiations and stuff like that. And then I moved to calculus 2. So calculus 2 is mainly integral calculus. So the best way to learn mathematics is, first of all, to know the rules and properties of the subject, of the mathematical subject you are learning. Because once you know and understand the rules and properties of the mathematical subject you're learning, applying them is not difficult at all. And that's what people tend to forget. is that they just want to compute things, but simply apply the principle, simply apply the formula that is given to you. And this formula is universal. That's the beauty of math. As I said, no matter where you're from, no matter what your language is, mathematical formulas are universal. There's no math for English people. There's no math for Arabs. There's no math for Jews. There's no math for Chinese. Math is human. Math is based on human nature. Math is for people. Only individuals do math. Animals don't do math, but individuals do. It's something unique to the human species. That's the beauty about mathematics. So it's important to learn the rules and properties of the mathematical subject you are learning. So if you're learning differential calculus, then focus first and foremost on the rules and properties of differential calculus. Focus on learn about the power rule, the product rule, the quotient rule, the chain rule, all these rules, and then learn the properties. Learn the properties. So basically, what are the properties? They're simply the operations you do. Simple as that. It's the operations you do when you use differential calculus. And the same goes for integral calculus. The same goes for linear algebra when you do the inverse matrix and stuff like that. Like it's all a matter of rules. Because once you know the rule and the property, the difficulty of the subject becomes irrelevant, honestly. Yes, they may give you like a complex problem just to challenge you a little bit, just to make you think outside the box, and that's the purpose. But the underlying factor remains the same. Is to apply the rule that you learn. I have a lot of progress to make in to actually making mathematics. Like I have to learn real analysis. I have to learn complex analysis. I still have to learn topology. These are stuff that I want to learn, not just because it's fun to learn, but it's stuff that I intend to use in my work down the road. So far, like, thanks to my willingness to learn math, I'm very comfortable doing differential calculus, integral calculus, differential equations, linear algebra. I use linear algebra in my books of economics, pretty much. So this is stuff that I learn on my own. And the platforms that I can give you guys to learn mathematics on your own, if you want to self-study, is to use Khan Academy. Khan Academy is the best platform, and that's what I used to teach myself math last year. So the good thing about Khan Academy is that they have all the curriculum of mathematics from kindergarten to graduate school. That tells you that they have everything, and the platform is entirely free. You also have YouTube, and on YouTube, I strongly suggest the Organic Chemistry Tutor. His channel has like over 3 million subscribers, and he touches on every single mathematical topic you can probably think of. It's amazing. It's through the Organic Chemistry Tutor that I learned how to do integration by parts. I learned how to do partial fractional integration. I learned how to do integration by substitution. I learned how to work on differential equations and stuff like that. These are free platforms that you can learn on your own, at your own pace, in your own time, and become better at mathematics. But it all starts from the very, very, very beginning. Why do you want to learn math? If you find the reason why you want to learn it, ask yourself, how is it going to help you? How is it going to improve what you lack or what you need? Those are the questions you should ask yourself before getting into the math, because once you know the answers to these questions, you will never focus on the difficulty or the complexity of mathematics again. It's simple as that, because when you find the answer to those questions, you know that these answers matters to you. You know that you found a solution to it. Now what you want to do is to learn the method to apply to those solutions. That's all. Remember that mathematics is a tool. You control it. It doesn't control you. The same way a car is a tool. You control the car. The car doesn't control you. However, in order to control the car, or in order to control the mathematical tools, you need to understand that these tools are subject to a set of rules and properties. Once you know that these tools are subject to a set of rules and properties, and you know how to apply these rules and properties to what you're working on, mathematics becomes very, very, very easy. Although the subject that you're learning is tough. So if you want to learn mathematics, ask yourself those questions and self-study. Do mathematics every day. Do a little bit of equations every day, just to train your brain to think outside the box and to still being stimulated intellectually. It's very important to do equations every day if you can. If you cannot, that's okay. But if you can, if you have like 5 minutes, you can solve a system of equations just to play around. That's a good way to stimulate your brain and to keep thinking analytically. It's very important. So that's what I wanted to say. Let me know in the comments what you think. But for my part, you can study math on your own if you want. You do not have to be a genius. You do not have to be born with a certain brain to learn math. Mathematics is accessible to anybody who truly wants to learn it. Remember, if you learn how to drive, you can learn how to do math. It's simple as that. It's all a matter of willingness. See you guys soon.